Unbelievable twist, how a mistaken date with a billionaire revealed an incredible life-changing journey. The moment Sarah stepped into the flickering lights of the oak room, she felt like she had accidentally drifted into a movie scene. The warm glow of chandeliers wrapped around her like an embrace, and the soft jazz crooning in the background almost made her forget the dull ache in her feet from hours spent waiting tables. She was not supposed to be here. This high-end restaurant wasn't meant for someone like her, a 32-year-old single mother from the diner. She just needed a breather, a moment to gather her thoughts after a particularly grueling shift. Then she saw him. Max, tall, striking, and dressed to perfection, he effortlessly drew the attention of everyone around him. Feeling suddenly bold, maybe it was the exhaustion or the strangeness of the moment, she approached him, mistaking his warm smile for a familiar one. "Is that you, Tom?" she quipped, instantly regretting her mix-up. But his laughter was disarming, and to her surprise, he beckoned her to sit. At first, she hesitated. What was she thinking? But a part of her craved this moment, an escape from the never-ending bills, the heart-wrenching choice between work and time with Mia, her vivacious 10-year-old daughter. There she was, in a lavish restaurant, enjoying a meal that was better than any she remembered having. "Tell me about yourself," he urged, his eyes sparkling with interest, as if she were the most fascinating person in the world. What followed was an unguarded sharing of tales, Mia's wild imagination, the challenges of balancing two jobs, the dream of having her own bakery one day. As she spoke, she could feel a warmth growing between them, a surprising comfort blooming over their plates. But outside those gilded walls, murmurs began. In Maplewood, news spread like wildfire. "What is she doing with him? Does she think she is too good for us now?" Each whisper had a weight heavy on her shoulders. While Max grappled with his high society circle, where every relationship came with stipulations, Sarah was torn between a world that felt more familiar and the alluring yet terrifying potential of something new. Before the night could settle, a small, yellowed newspaper caught her eye. Back home, a family connection, a bitter betrayal that linked both her and Max's lives in unexpected ways. Her heart raced, torn between the old wound of her father's choices and the spark of hope she felt with him. It felt unbearably loud, each realization pushing against her all these threads she had tangled herself in. Did she dare seek happiness with the man who might embody everything her family resented? Just then, a pang of reality struck. Serendipity had crossed paths, but could she wrestle with the consequences? Somehow, her journey forward seemed destined to be a combination of risk and resilience. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood at the crossroads of her reality, preparing for the town meeting that could unravel everything, her heart thundered in her chest. The thought of love against a backdrop of chaos spiraled in her mind. Could she truly embrace this chance at a new beginning? The room filled with her neighbors' expectant faces closed in, judgment hanging heavy in the air. With her life precariously swaying between past shadows and glowing possibilities, Sarah felt one undeniable truth: this was the moment that would define her future. Would she hold on to what was familiar, or step boldly into a love worth fighting for? All eyes were on her, and the spotlight was set to break the silence. What path would she choose? The room fell silent. Sarah could feel the heat from the murmurs now inching closer like a rising tide. Every gaze weighed on her, like a spotlight trying to wrench her heart from her chest. She looked to the sidewalk beyond the windows where brazen autumn leaves danced at the mercy of a chilled breeze, and her thoughts flickered back to Max. So much was at stake. "Sarah, you need to make a decision," her gut whispered. Each word rang painfully clear as she clutched the hem of her dress. It was just a simple fabric, yet it felt like armor in a war of emotions. "Why are we even here?" A sharp voice broke through the tension. It was Carol from the diner, an old friend turned bitter acquaintance. "We all know her kind. She thinks she can just waltz in and—" "Enough." The interruption was unexpected. It was Mrs. Thompson, the balding librarian, who usually kept to the sidelines. "Sarah deserves a chance, don't you think? Nobody knows her story." Instantly, a flicker of warmth spread through Sarah. The defense felt like a lifebuoy tossed to a drowning swimmer. Sarah took a breath, steeling herself. "I'm just trying to do what's best for my daughter." And there it was, the truth spilling out. The need to protect Mia overshadowed everything else, even the bright allure of luxury. Max's world felt like a beacon, but was it a lighthouse or a mirage? She thought of those moments when Mia could barely stifle a giggle as Sarah recited stories from books at bedtime. The flowing whisper of imagination painted a world where anything was possible. Yet, love complicated everything. Looking back at Max, she saw him leaning against the bar, a confident smile lighting his face, unaware of the storm brewing just a few steps away. They had shared something real over the delicious meal, but would the vulnerabilities that came with it threaten to swallow her whole? A hand brushed against hers, snapping back her focus. Ben, an old guard in Maplewood society, stepped forward. "You know, sometimes what seems like a mistake could turn out to be the best decision you'll ever make." His words were like a bomb. Maybe it wasn't about her past or what others thought. Maybe it was about what was right for Mia and her, what would make them happier. "Yes," she found herself speaking, her voice gathering strength. "I may be just a waitress, but I'm a mother first. If Max is willing to see me for who I am, and not what anyone else thinks, then maybe it's worth exploring." With that, the tension seemed to shift in the room. Gasps spread like wildfire, followed by a hush that enveloped the town meeting. Every pair of eyes shifted back to her, some in shock, others in hushed conversation. Just then, her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket. She pulled it out to glance. A message lit up the screen, and her heart nearly stopped. It was from Max. "I can't wait to see you again. Meet me tomorrow." His words ignited a flame of hope. But with it came the weight of the past clashing with the promise of an uncertain future. What did tomorrow hold? Just as Sarah was about to respond, she felt a hand on her arm. It was Carol again, her expression now questioning, conflicting. "You think you can just step into his world? What if they don't accept you? What if—" The nagging doubt crept back, entwined with a sudden wave of fear. What if she did only spark new conflict instead of happiness? Yet, as she looked around, she saw a glimmer of support in Mrs. Thompson's eyes, and in the nodding heads of some others. Maybe redefining who she was began here and now. She needed to take this step with or without the others' approval. As she breathed deeply, weighing her choices, she realized it was about more than just her future. It was about Mia too. The thrilling possibilities tickled her heart. Could this be the adventure they both needed? As the weight of the choices pressed heavy, one truth loomed larger than the others: Sarah had a decision to make. Would she dive into the unknown waters of love and risk losing everything, or retreat to the familiarity that felt safe but stifling? The choice lay ahead like an open road waiting to be traveled. With resolve, she smoothed her dress, ready to make the leap. But would it be into the arms of a billionaire, or would she need to confront her past first? Determined to act, she typed frantically on her phone, her heart racing as she hit send. Each breath felt charged with purpose, and as she looked up, she caught Max's eye through the crowd. The uncertainty still lingered, but something inside her began to shift. Was she ready to embrace this new beginning? Or was there still something she had to confront long before tomorrow? As Sarah stared into Max's deep blue eyes, a whirlwind of emotions enveloped her. His gaze was steady and filled with a warmth that melted away some of her doubts, even if just for a moment. She felt herself drawn closer, her heart pounding a wild rhythm as the future loomed ahead like an unexpected storm, thrilling yet undeniably terrifying. The murmurs from the room faded, but the weight of expectation pressed down even harder. Who was she to think she belonged to his world? It was as if she stood on the edge of a precipice, peering into a vast chasm of uncertainty, with only the promise of something beautiful on the other side. Suddenly, Ben spoke again, breaking the silence that lingered after her declaration. "You know, Sarah, sometimes you find your biggest courage in the smallest acts of faith." His voice was rich and assured. "You already have what it takes to fight for your daughter. You can do this." Sarah breathed in deep, using Ben's words as fuel. "You're right," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly but with newfound conviction. "It's about time I fought for what I want." At that, another voice, full of disapproval, snapped out from the back. "This isn't just about you, Sarah. Mia deserves a stable life, not one entangled in the glitter of someone like Max." It was Carol again, the discontent ringing sharply in her words. The tension in Sarah's shoulders tightened. She understood the concern, but at that moment, it felt misplaced. Was it wrong to think that stability could mean something different than mere financial security? "I want Mia to see courage," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "That includes the courage to explore new paths, to take chances. Isn't that what life is supposed to be about?" But even as she spoke, another wave of fear washed over her. What if Max wasn't the answer? What if she walked into his world only to trip and fall, dragging Mia down with her? Caught in this tumult of conflicting emotions, she glanced back at her phone. The message still flickered with an invitation, promising another chance, but also confronting her with the truth. It was time to engage, to leap, or to pull back and take a breath. "Sarah," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice gentle and coaxing. "You have the chance to change the narrative, not just for you, but for your daughter. You're not alone." With each encouragement from her neighbors, the fog of uncertainty began to lift, and the raw decision she faced felt more tangible. There was a path ahead of her, lush with possibilities and brimming with risks. She could feel the excitement pulse in her veins, pushing her towards something she had only dared to dream. "Tomorrow," she whispered, glancing at her phone again. "Tomorrow, I'll meet him." But a small voice inside nagged at her still. Was this a mistake? The ringing tone of her phone broke her reverie again, startling her. This time it was from Mia. "Hey, Mom. I have a good feeling about tomorrow." A burst of joy and innocence poured through the screen. Sarah's heart swelled. "Me too, sweetheart," she replied, her smile returning for the moment. But she knew she had to balance this newfound hope against the potential fallout. Could she really navigate this path without losing the heart she held dear? Just as she was about to disconnect, Mia's voice chimed in again, casual and brave. "You'll be brave, right, Mom? Like you always say. Brave." It felt like an echo in her mind, resonating fiercely. "Yes, my love," she said. "Brave." The word bolstered her, but doubt crept in again, gnawing at her confidence just as Carol's words did. Was she truly ready for what lay ahead? Would tomorrow reveal the adventure they both needed, or shatter what little stability they had created together? As she sent one last glance around the room, meeting a kaleidoscope of uncertain faces, she felt a flicker of hope yet again. But was hope enough? The weight of her decision hung in the balance, and with it, the fate of her tomorrow loomed uncertain. Just as she was about to step away from the crowd, she felt that familiar cool breeze drift through the opened window, carrying the crispness of autumn with it, like a whisper urging her forward. What awaited her on the other side of the door? The morning arrived too quickly, casting a soft, golden light into Sarah's bedroom. She rolled over, her eyes flickering open as the events of the previous day danced in her memory. Today was the day. Today, she would step into the unknown, into a life that felt like a fairy tale, both exhilarating and terrifying. As she got up, she noticed the sun illuminating the corners of her home, a gentle reminder of the warmth and love she had built with Mia. It was a stark contrast to the apprehension swirling within her. She brushed her fingers through her hair, trying to calm the nerves gripping her stomach. What if everything went wrong? What if Max wasn't what he seemed? Mom! Mia's voice erupted from the hallway, bright and full of energy. Are you ready? Almost. Sarah called back, a smile breaking through the anxiety. There was something about her daughter's enthusiasm that made the uncertainty feel a bit lighter. She hurriedly pulled on her clothes, stealing glances at the mirror. Was she doing the right thing? Once dressed, she made her way into the kitchen. Mia was buzzing with excitement, cereal spilled over the counter as she animatedly talked about her plans for the day. After school, can we go to that pumpkin patch? I want to find the biggest one. Of course, pumpkin, Sarah replied, her heart swelling at the sight of her daughter. The ease of Mia's joy reminded her of what she was fighting for. They were a team, navigating through life together. An hour passed quickly, with the two sharing breakfast filled with laughter. But just as Sarah was about to usher Mia off to school, the black screen of her phone lit up with a message. It was from Max. Looking forward to seeing you today. Let's say 2 p.m. at the cafe. I can't wait to share some exciting ideas with you. Her heart raced as she read the words. Exciting ideas. What did that mean? Was it about Mia? About their future? She had so many questions swirling in her mind, each more daunting than the last. Mia, sensing her mother's distraction, looked up with curiosity. Are you thinking about Max? Sarah hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yeah, I am. Just be yourself, Mom. You're brave. And if he isn't nice, you can always leave. Mia declared with a confidence that made Sarah chuckle. Smart girl, Sarah said, hugging her tightly. You're right. After dropping Mia off at school, Sarah felt a sense of finality as she turned the car towards the cafe. The streets seemed different today, as if teeming with opportunity. She parked and took a deep breath before stepping out. Inside, the smell of fresh coffee and baked goods enveloped her. She took a moment to let the warmth settle over her, feeling the familiar comfort that had always soothed her. Still, doubt lingered in the back of her mind, nudging her as she scanned the cafe for Max. Then, there he was. Even from a distance, he looked poised and confident, adorned in a casual yet stylish outfit. As her gaze locked onto his, time seemed to slow down. This was it, today would change everything. Hi. She waved nervously, approaching the table. Hey, you made it. Max smiled, his eyes sparkling, instantly washing away some of her worries. They sat across from each other, the initial chit-chat easing into deeper conversation. Sarah found herself laughing and sharing, the tension from before slowly unwinding. Yet, beneath the laughter, an unsettling feeling crept in. She felt the stakes rising. The more they connected, the more she realized he could change everything. Just then, the door swung open with a jingle, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see a figure step inside. It was Carol. Her heart sank as she saw Carol's eyes narrow with a mix of disbelief and disdain. Sarah! Carol called out, her voice slicing through the ambience of the cafe. What are you doing here? The surprise of being discovered washed over Sarah, mingling with confusion. How could she explain this moment? The joy of being here, the hope sprouting between her and Max, now overshadowed by Carol's sharp presence. Maybe this isn't just what it seems. The uncertainty now loomed larger than ever, and Sarah felt the weight of every decision pressing onto her. Would this be the moment that defined her future, or would it lead to chaos? What had she opened herself up to? The tension in the cafe hung thick as Sarah felt the weight of Carol's glare. Jess had warned her about this. Why are you here? Carol pressed, clearly not willing to let this go. Max shifted in his seat, his smile fading as he glanced between the two women. Do you know each other? He asked, confusion dancing in his eyes. Yes, Carol replied, her voice dripping with condescension. From her past. Sarah should be known better than to think she could just move on. Sarah's heart raced. She wanted to speak, to explain, but the words caught in her throat. This moment felt like a trap. Every inch of her desired to run, yet something kept her glued to the floor. Murmurs swept through the cafe, patrons peeking over their mugs, their curiosity piqued. Sarah could feel the heat of embarrassment creep up her neck, and she desperately wished the ground would swallow her whole. Yet, as Carol's mocking laughter echoed, the moment transformed from a personal confrontation to a very public showdown. Max, she finally stammered out, the sincerity in her voice cutting through the tension. I really want to explain. Explain what? Carol interjected, her tone sharp, sabering the air. You've got everything to prove. What do you even know about him? Or about moving on? Mia's voice echoed in Sarah's head. Just be yourself, Mom. She could feel that little reminder of strength buoying her as she focused on Max. He was still here. He hadn't left in anger. He was watching, waiting for her response. Honestly, I know I'm a work in progress, Sarah continued, her heart pounding. But I'm trying. I came here because I wanted to meet someone who could see me for who I am, not who I was. Carol rolled her eyes, a dismissive shake of her head. And you think this guy is the answer? A coffee date? Is your life that sad, Sarah? Stop. Max said suddenly, a firmness in his voice. He turned to Carol, his expression hardening. I don't know what's between you and Sarah, but I wanted to meet her. I wanted to take this time to get to know her idea for the project. That's what matters. Sarah felt a swell of gratitude mixed with disbelief. Could he really see through the situation? Was he offering her support amid this chaos? Carol scoffed and crossed her arms. So you're saying you're seriously considering her project? What a surprise! But instead of flinching, Sarah squared her shoulders. Yes, I am. Because it matters. Just like I do. The silence that followed felt electrifying. People caught in the middle of the drama leaned in, some leaning back, whispering among themselves. The cafe had become a spectator arena, and all eyes centered on the three of them. Seconds ticked by like hours, the tension thickening, yet Sarah felt a surge of power within herself. Max smiled weakly, his eyes softening as he looked at Sarah. You deserve to be heard. It's okay to claim your spot in the world, and I think your ideas are worth exploring. If you're interested in working together. Before he could finish, Carol interrupted again, her voice a sharp knife. You think this is a fairy tale? Think again. This is reality. And what happens when you realize she's not as perfect as you think? Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned to Carol, her voice steady. No one is perfect, not even you. But that doesn't mean we don't deserve a chance to redefine what's possible in our lives. The cafe microcosm seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Sarah could feel the energy shift, the crowd shifting from curiosity to support. Would she step forward, or retreat into the shadows of her past? I'm ready to move beyond my past, Sarah said, feeling a weight lift. With all of my baggage right beside me. Max's eyes sparkled, revealing a hint of admiration. Then let us start something new, together. Carol's face turned a shade of fury, but Sarah hardly noticed. She had taken her stand. The past wasn't going to define her anymore. But standing there, she couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation wasn't over, that shadows still lurked ahead. What happens next? She wondered as she felt the calm before the storm, ready for the next chapter to unfold. Would she emerge victorious, or would the past reach out and pull her back once more? The silence that enveloped the cafe felt like a looming storm. Eyes shifted back and forth, and Sarah could almost hear the conversation buzzing around her, whispers of anticipation, concern, maybe even hope. Yet, in that moment, all she could focus on was Max's genuine smile, giving her the strength to stand tall. Carol's eyes darted between them. "You really think he cares?" "This is a joke, Sarah," she hissed, frustration mounting like a tidal wave about to crash. "You're not worth the time it takes to listen." But Sarah found resolve in every lingering gaze aimed her way. "You're wrong, Carol," she said, her voice firm, cutting through the noise. "I may not be perfect, but my ideas are real. I'm real. And I won't let you drown me in your doubts." Max leaned closer, interested. "What's your idea about?" he asked, genuinely curious. Sarah's heart lifted slightly, a real conversation a chance. Taking a breath, she launched into her project, igniting with passion. "It's about connecting people through their stories, creating a platform where everyone feels seen. We forget how much we can learn from one another, from sharing our journeys, our failures." The room leaned in, entranced as Sarah spoke, her confidence blooming like spring flowers. Noticing the spark in Max's eyes deepened her belief. "I want to highlight the raw, real struggles we all face and turn them into bridges instead of walls." "Bridges are nice," Carol scoffed, but even her voice wavered against the tide of energy Sarah was building. "They don't pay bills, do they?" "Actually," Max interrupted, "it sounds like a worthwhile project. People need to relate to one another. Imagine the change that could inspire." His admiration ignited a warmth in Sarah's chest, one she had almost forgotten existed. For a moment, the focus shifted, yanking Carol temporarily from her tirade. Mouth half open in disbelief, she blinked, processing. The energy had shifted irrevocably. "Oh, please. A project doesn't pay the bills if it's just wishful thinking." She shot back, but doubt crept into her voice. "You believe in this charade, Max?" "Yes," he said simply, crossing his arms, displaying a rare confidence. "I do. Maybe it's not just about dollars and cents. Some things are worth more than that." Sarah's heart skipped. Could it be possible? Could her dreams lead somewhere tangible? The cafe patrons exchanged knowing glances, support sharpening the atmosphere, transforming it into something electric. As she began to realize the strength of her voice, Carol's scorn felt less daunting. "I'm not here to impress anyone, Carol. I'm here to grow, to tell my story, and help others tell theirs too. That's what matters to me." At that moment, as the murmurs began to shift in a positive direction, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of her past and future colliding. Still, a weight loomed over her. Was it truly over? Was the past really ready to be buried? Carol's features darkened as her jaw clenched. "You think you can just erase everything, Sarah? People don't change that easily. You've got a mountain to climb." The transition in the atmosphere was palpable. Carol's words felt like a dark rain cloud hovering above, while the support from Max mixed with the crowd's reactions began to form a fragile silver lining. "I'm not afraid of climbing," Sarah stated finally, determination fueling her resolve. "I'm ready to take that first step, whether it's rocky or smooth." Max nodded, a little more impressed. "Then let's plan, Sarah. I'm in. Let's make this happen." As the tension in the air lifted slightly, an inexplicable joy welled within Sarah. Could this moment truly spearhead a transformation? But a lingering doubt whispered at the edges of her mind. Would her past strike back when she least expected it? Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The jubilation mixed uneasily with uncertainty, leaving her with a mix of hope and apprehension. Could a new path truly open, or would she forever be shadowed by the echoes of her past? As the cafe patrons stirred, accepting her journey into the unknown, she realized one thing fully: she wasn't alone. But she couldn't help but wonder, what if Carol wasn't done with her yet? The buzz in the cafe hadn't fully settled, but something within Sarah felt like a corner had turned. She dug her fingernails into her palms to keep her adrenaline in check. Max described her project as inspiring. His words lingered like a melody in her mind, pushing aside Carol's earlier doubts. "Okay, then," Sarah said, buoyed by Max's faith and the flicker of approval from the crowd. "How about a brainstorming session? If we want to turn this into a reality, we'll need solid ideas, shared experiences, and maybe even some storytelling workshops." She glanced around at the hopeful faces leaning in. "I want to create a community that listens, a space where everyone can contribute. Who would be interested in getting involved?" Hands began shooting up around the cafe. Some faces she recognized, others were new, but the enthusiasm was infectious. "I'd love to help." A woman with curly hair chimed in. "My sister has a podcast about mental health struggles. We could get her involved." "Count me in," said a young man with a smile that stretched ear to ear. "I've always wanted a platform to share my experiences with addiction. It's important for others to know they're not alone." The energy surged. They shared glances, each person seeing the strength behind their vulnerabilities. It felt like the walls were slowly coming down. Sarah took a deep breath. "Let us meet again next week," she proposed, excitement quickening her heartbeat. "We'll come up with a name, a plan, everything." Before the others could react, Carol's voice cut through the room like a knife. "This is all fantasy, Sarah. What makes you think this isn't just a waste of time? You think you can lead these people towards something that won't even pay off?" The crowd turned, a collective tension filling the cafe once more. Sarah's heart pounded against her ribs. The moment felt crucial. How she responded could change everything. "I don't think this is a waste of time. I believe in the strength of vulnerability," she asserted, steadying her voice against the storm of Carol's skepticism. "We all have stories that matter, and if sharing them helps just one person feel less alone, then it's worth it." Max nodded in agreement. "That's the point. Connection matters. Money will come later." Everyone looked between Sarah and Max, eagerness flickering in their eyes. They wanted this. But Carol seemed unmoved, simmering in her resentment. "Just watch it all crash down," she smirked. "You can't outrun your past forever. Sooner or later, it catches up." Her words felt like a punch to the gut. Deep down, Sarah knew Carol wasn't wrong entirely. Shadows of her past still haunted her like unwelcome whispers that rose whenever the room grew too quiet. "Maybe I can't outrun it," Sarah finally replied, her voice stronger than she felt. "But I don't have to face it alone anymore." The truth settled over her like a comforting weight. As she looked into the faces of her newfound supporters, she felt roots of hope growing. This was her chance for connection, for confrontation, for healing. The cafe slowly filled with renewed laughter and conversation, drowning out Carol's ominous tones. Sarah couldn't help but grin as ideas bounced off the walls. But in the depths of her mind, unease stirred. What if Carol's dire warning was more than just empty threats? What if her past did come back to collect? As they wrapped up, Max turned to Sarah. "You really think you can handle whatever comes next?" "Because I believe you can. We'll face it together." "Together," Sarah echoed, a smile touching her lips, a promise, a commitment. Yet, in the back of her mind, the question lingered: what if Carol's words weren't just mere words, but a prophecy waiting to unfold? Sarah couldn't shake off the stirring noise in her head as she stepped out of the cafe. Each footfall on the pavement reverberated with an unrelenting rhythm, a pulse of anticipation mixed with anxiety. The chill in the air felt sharper now, reminding her of Carol's words, heavy and daunting. "Pop your head up. See the possibilities," she told herself. But doubt crept in like a thief in the night, stealing away her confidence. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Max: "Great job today. Can't wait for our next meeting." A smile broke across her face, warmth wrapping around her heart. He believed in her, and that mattered more than all of Carol's negativity. Still, the unease lingered, a shadow trailing her as she walked home. The next few days became a blur of preparation. Coffee meetings turned into planning sessions as Sarah pored over ideas. She scribbled notes that erupted from her, reflecting the passionate voices she heard. Each snippet contained a piece of someone's struggle, a fragment of their dreams. There was a thrill in it, an energy crackling through her, driving her forward. As she finalizes meeting details, Sarah couldn't help but consider the numerous faces of support. The woman with curly hair, whose sister had a podcast. The young man wanting to deal with his addiction openly. By the time the week had passed, their collective stories felt intertwined with her own, rooting them together in uncharted soil. When the day of the next meeting arrived, she was filled with anticipation. Stepping back into the cafe felt like walking into a charged arena. The energy was palpable, and her spirit soared as familiar faces filled the space again. There was chatter, laughter, and an undeniable sense of purpose. "All right, let's get started," Sarah called, her voice more robust now, her earlier fears pushed aside. She handed out sheets with ideas for discussion, each one carefully crafted from the voices she had gathered. The atmosphere thickened with creativity and potential. As conversations flowed, Sarah caught glimpses of the hesitation in some faces, mirroring the uncertainty that still clawed at her heart. In a sudden moment of vulnerability, she paused. "I can't pretend I'm not scared. There are days I doubt if this is real. But I believe we can create something lasting from our experiences even if it's hard." Silence enveloped the room for a brief moment, then one by one, hands shot up. Stories flowed, woven with raw honesty. They spoke of setbacks and victories, each experience like a thread in a rich tapestry. The walls of the cafe seemed to echo with their strength, a chorus rising with each shared moment. But as the meetings evolved, Carol's shadow loomed ever larger in the background of Sarah's mind. Each triumphant detail was punctuated by a nagging anxiety, a fear of the past resurfacing. After the meeting ended, as laughter and camaraderie filled the cafe, Max approached Sarah. "You're doing something incredible here," he said, his eyes sincere and sparkling. "But promise me you'll prepare for any backlash. No matter how strong you feel, it's essential to stay grounded." "I know," she replied, her heart racing. "But I want to believe." Little did she know that her past was about to collide with her present in a way she never saw coming, shaking the very foundation she was trying to build. As Sarah packed her notes, the door swung open, and Carol walked in. The mood shifted instantly, anticipation hanging heavily in the air. Sarah's stomach knotted. What could Carol want now? "Mind if I join?" Carol's eyes were sharp, and she smiled, but it was the kind of smile that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. The group fell quiet, and Sarah felt every gaze shift between them and Carol. What was going to happen next? This wasn't just the meeting she had hoped for. This could change everything. The tension was palpable as Sarah met Carol's gaze. It felt like being caught in a web. Carol was no longer the distant figure of her past, she was right there, a force that had the potential to unravel everything Sarah had fought to build. Sure. Have a seat," Sarah offered, her voice steadier than she felt. The group shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances that mirrored Sarah's unease. Carol slid into an empty chair, crossing her arms. "I was intrigued by what you're trying to do here. What makes you think it's going to work?" The question hung in the air. Conversations had sparked a moment ago, and now they stalled, like an engine sputtering after a rough start. Sarah's heart raced. "Because I believe in the strength of shared experiences. Stories connect us. They help us heal. Carol raised an eyebrow, a smirk forming. Isn't that what you told yourself when things got tough? Those little pep talks only go so far, don't they? A wave of discomfort swept through the room, and Sarah felt every pair of eyes on her. She could either retreat into silence or stand her ground. The fire inside her surged, pushing the doubt aside. Honestly? Sarah said, meeting Carol's gaze head-on. I think you underestimate people. Sure, they struggle. But that's life. We don't stay down, we rise. As the words poured out, she was struck by the depth of her conviction. Laughter erupted from one side of the room, breaking the tension like glass shattering. She's right. A young woman exclaimed. Others nodded in agreement. The atmosphere shifted, spreading a new warmth. It was a collective ignition, a charge that filled the air as hope surged. Carol's expression faltered for just a moment. All right, let's see if this works. I'll join, but only if it doesn't turn into a pity party, she replied, her tone teetering between skepticism and intrigue. Deal. Sarah smiled, relief washing over her like a wave. The group shifted gears, and they began to brainstorm ideas and projects with renewed vigor. The chatter grew louder, a symphony of enthusiasm. With Carol present, it became a cage match of ideas rather than shying away from fears. As the meeting progressed, Sarah couldn't ignore the lurking shadow at the edge of her mind. Carol's sharp words still echoed, replaying scenes from their past. But here, amidst the laughter and fervor, something felt different. When the meeting finally wrapped up, Max found Sarah, his smile bright in the corner of her vision. That was impressive. You really captivated them. And you held your own against Carol, he said, his voice like an anchor that steadied her racing thoughts. Thanks, Max. But I still feel like I'm walking a tightrope, she admitted, her smile dimming as doubt lurked again. Everything feels shaky at first, he encouraged, his understanding tone soaking into her. Embrace the uncertainty. You have something special growing here. Sarah nodded, heart swelling but still torn. Would the doubts ever quiet down? Just then, Carol slipped away, her parting words echoing through Sarah's mind like a dark cloud. See you next time if you dare to keep this up. That single statement set off alarms. Maybe she was right. Maybe Carol would find a way to undermine everything. What if Sarah's past and present collided in a way that threatened to dismantle her newfound purpose? She couldn't shake the uneasy feeling, determined to push forward despite the turmoil brewing inside. Sarah tightened her grip on her notes. She steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. But did she have the strength to face what was coming? Would her resolve hold up under the weight of Carol's looming presence, or would everything she was building come crashing down? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Max read, excited to see where this leads. She glanced back at the cafe, where the fires of hope flickered, but an ominous shadow loomed just beyond the light. What did Carol really mean by "if you dare"? As doubt threatened to creep back in, Sarah clenched her fists and inhaled deeply. This was her moment, against all odds. Every story had its trials. The real story had just begun. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple as Sarah prepared for the community gathering. It was an ordinary evening, but for her, the stakes felt sky-high. There was a palpable energy crackling in the air, igniting hope and fear in equal measures. She tugged on her favorite sweater, the one Mia had picked out for her, and glanced at the mirror, catching her resolve reflected back. "Mom, you got this." Mia's voice rang through the house. A warm smile crept onto Sarah's face. Mia always seemed to shine light into her doubts. "Gaze steady," she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart, I will." As she stepped out, the crisp autumn air kissed her cheeks, invigorating her courage. The streets of Maplewood were alive with chatter and laughter, neighbors gathering for support and community around the stories they would share. This was not just another meeting, it was a revolution of connection in a town often stifled by rumors and expectations. Arriving at the venue, Sarah was greeted by friendly faces. Old friends waved as new supporters filled the space, creating a tapestry of unity and excitement. They believed in her dream, her project, and she could feel the warmth of their hope wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. "So glad you're here." Ben, the old guard, clapped her on the back. He had become a staunch ally in the endeavor. "I'm excited to see how tonight goes. We need to create a ripple effect, don't we?" With his encouraging words in mind, Sarah took to the small stage, her heart racing. She scanned the crowd, everyone's eyes were glued to her, anticipation humming in the air. There was no turning back now. "I'm so grateful for each of you being here tonight," she started, her voice steady despite the nerves. "Tonight is about creating a space where every voice matters and every story is valued." The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of support washing over her. A smile broke her face wide open, but just as quickly, a wave of uncertainty tried to creep in, clawing at her confidence. Could the voices in the crowd drown out the doubts lurking in her mind? As she shared her vision, Sarah detailed how they would weave their stories together, fostering community through connection. She encouraged participation and dialogue, welcoming everyone to share their experiences. And to her surprise, stories began flowing like a rushing stream. A woman shared her battle with illness, while a young man opened up about his journey through addiction. Each story added another layer of beauty and truth to the atmosphere. But just when Sarah felt lifted by camaraderie, a shadow darted across the room. Carol slipped in through the back, her presence heavy and foreboding. Though she held her head high, Sarah felt her heart sink like a stone. "Are you really going to let this just become a stage for sob stories?" Carol called out, her tone dripping with venom. "There are real issues we should be addressing, not risking everything for tales of woe." Stirring murmurs spiraled into chaos as disbelief met Carol's jabs. But Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just about her anger towards Carol. It was about the community, the people who needed this space to heal. "Carol, what we're doing is meaningful." Sarah shot back, her voice ringing through the unrest. "It's about forging connections, bringing our humanity back into conversations. We all have victories and challenges. Together, we can find strength and support." The energy in the room began to shift once more. Familiar faces nodded encouragingly, and she glimpsed Max, pride shining in his features, his gaze unwavering. She felt the mantle of support surround her. This was her fight for renewal, for growth. As Carol continued to challenge, Sarah felt her footing grow stronger. Every story told here could inspire someone who feels alone. "We're not just here to vent, we're here to lift one another up." The crowd began to rally around her, pushing back against the dark cloud that Carol cast. Inspiration sparked as a chorus of voices rose, expressing support for Sarah's work. Carol's brows furrowed, and a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. She was losing ground. "This was never about what you think." Sarah pressed on, fueled by raw energy. "It's about understanding, compassion, things that can't be dismissed by cynicism. We stand together, and we rise together." As the applause swelled, Sarah's heart surged with warmth. It was her moment, her transformation solidified. She wasn't merely a waitress anymore, she was a beacon of hope in her community, a leader pushing boundaries. Within the wave of enthusiasm, Sarah caught sight of Mia, standing at the back with a broad, proud smile. A rush of joy spread through her. This was for Mia. Every choice they made together was a step towards a brighter future. "Let us keep sharing our stories. Let us keep lifting one another up," Sarah called, and the room erupted into unified cheers, a vibrant chorus of support. Amid the jubilance, she felt a whisper of apprehension nestle in the back of her mind. Carol's ghost still lingered. This battle might not be over. But tonight, they had triumphed, overcoming the shadows of doubt, if only temporarily. As the night unfolded with laughter, plans, and heartfelt connections, Sarah felt the foundations of a new life solidifying beneath her feet. The journey wouldn't be easy, and challenges lay ahead, but she was ready to face anything. She wouldn't just survive in this whirlwind of change, she would thrive. Each story interwoven with love and resilience was a testament to that. And as she looked around at the supportive faces, she finally knew this was only the beginning. If you found inspiration in Sarah's story, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help more people find their voice. Comment your own reactions and feelings about this dynamic ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformation. True fans know just how important it is to support the channel through these actions.